Good Monday afternoon to you, Christian Gokel, alongside Cody Queen and Cam Ursery here on Second Down. Glad to have you alongside. We're, of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source. Cam, I want to test out a theory today because typically we don't talk much Hawks on the show unless it's to talk extremely bad about them, which is very well deserved. But it seems like whenever we do talk about the Hawks, they go out there and beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat, i.e., last week when we were talking about them and we were talking about how devastatingly bad they'd been. And what do? Went out and beat the Celtics that very same night. So I want to test out a theory, Cam, and open the show today talking about the Hawks who lost two bad games this weekend. On Friday with a debacle with the uniforms with OKC. Cam, is there any salvation for this Atlanta Hawks team, or is it just bad?
Man, I remember I was real optimistic about them making the playoffs, but right now it's bad, man. I mean, everybody's getting better. That you see the Knicks, Miami, Boston's looking bad, but Charlotte's, on the uphill jump, and just Hawks is creeping back down. So I don't know. The coaching is bad as well, and defense. I just don't see it happening right now.
Well, then last night you scored, 99 against a Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat, and a Miami Heat team that's been kind of okay with. They're 500 now. I mean, none of the deals that you signed during the offseason have really worked out. Apparently, you're shopping John Collins, who's been your most consistent player on both sides of the floor, and it seems like every night to me, Cam, the Atlanta Hawks are getting just straight up out-coached. So, I mean, I know it's the first half of the year. You got All-Star break coming up, and they finally released the second half schedule, but I don't see any signs of a turnaround.
Yeah, they just can't stay healthy. Bogdanovich was the big free agent signing. We haven't seen him in like 2 months. Gallinari just came back. He had a good game, but other than that, a disappointing season. And like you said, you shopping probably your second best player for what exactly?
I'd say he's second best in terms of like value in the NBA, but I think he's been a better player this year so far than Trae Young overall.
That's hard to say.
Unstoppable last night.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I give you that, but that's hard to argue 29-9 at the end of the day. That's pretty hard.
Let's pull up those defensive stats. I know you and BJ don't really care a lot about the defensive.
Oh, no, I love defense. I always said, my Lakers last year, they won the championship. Defense wins championships at the end of the day. Golden State, everybody looks at Steph Curry and Klay shoot the ball. They were the best defensive team all those years. Defense wins championships.
Yeah, again, the Hawks lost to the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler, and they snapped Cleveland's 10-game losing streak on Friday, and Cleveland didn't have 4 of their key contributors in that game. Meanwhile, the Hawks had the guy you said is the best player on their team and the second best player on their team, John Collins and Trae Young. So, I mean, it's rough right now. Is Lloyd Pierce's job in danger at all, or is it too soon in the Lloyd Pierce era for that?
Oh, it's sizzling. The hot seat is sizzling because they built a team to make the playoffs. It doesn't matter what seed it was, but they built this team to make it's not a rebuild year, so it's hot. He has to win, or he has to pull this thing around, or he's gone.
And you always mention Bogdanovich and the fact that he hasn't been healthy and hasn't been able to play, but do you think just him healthy and on the court completely changes this Hawks team? Because I don't.
As far as space in the floor, maybe, but defense, you're right. It's still, he's not bringing nothing to the table defensively. They have to go out there and get some athletic wings that can defend, and they have to find a way to hide Trae Young, kind of like they hide Steph Curry in Golden State. They got to figure that way out. That's coaching, though. So it comes down to coaching.
And it doesn't get a whole lot easier for them the next 3 games. I know the Magic aren't very good, but that's at Orlando. So you go to Miami, who just beat you, to Orlando, and then to Toronto, Cam. Mixed between that, you'll have the All-Star break in there. But do you see, as of right now, March 1st, them making the playoffs as an 8 seed?
As of right now, heck no. No. There's too many teams looking good. Charlotte. The Knicks are the 4th seed. Nobody expected that. It's too many good teams out there right now in the East. They're going to have to make a trade at the deadline. or something's going to happen.
Oh, we actually had a caller call in, Doug. He brought up a good point, saying the Falcons and the Hawks have something in common. They can't get the coaching right. Can I get the coaching hire right
Well,
now?
I hope he's not right about the new hire for the Falcons.
No, obviously he was talking about the past with
And I would give the
Dan
Hawks,
Quinn.
I'd give the Falcons a little bit more credit. Like at least the Falcons have made an appearance in the finals.
Yeah.
Whereas the Hawks usually can't get past the second round with like the best team ever. How many games in a row did that team win in what, 2014, 2015, Cam?
15, yeah. They went to the conference finals but got swept by LeBron.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember that.
So it's just-
LeBron, baby.
at least the Falcons have been able to get to the conference championships and won it once. So I mean, I'll give the Falcons credit on that. I mean, if we're doing like hierarchy of pro sports teams in Atlanta, I mean, the Hawks are at the very bottom of that. And we talk about them because we carry them and they're the local team. But I mean, if you look at them from a league perspective, I don't think anybody values the Hawks any more than like the Sacramento Kings or
the Magic.
I mean, the Hornets, the Grizzlies. I mean, no one values the Hawks league wide.
Yeah, they don't. And
I mean, Atlanta's an amazing city, and you would think they'd be able to pull more free agents, but it's just when you've been mediocre your entire time. And there's just I guess, magnetic attraction between the superstars because you understand that you need 2 to 3 to maybe 4 elite guys on a team to have a chance of winning a championship. The Hawks don't have any right now.
yeah, that is true. And maybe they're probably looking back on that Luka trade now and they're like, wow, we just passed up a 6'8" wing for, a 6'1" guard at the end of the day just to get a extra draft pick that turns into Cam Reddish. So they might be regretting that.
Streak was 19.
Yeah, it was nuts.
19.
That was wild.
From December 27th to January 31st. Man, come on, Hawks.
I mean, that was a really good team, but I don't think they had any superstars on that team. And you knew as soon as they went to the series against LeBron that was just going to be bad. And it was.
Yeah.
That's what happens to a lot of really good teams, or sometimes great teams. They run into people like Tom Brady, LeBron, and they just don't make it past that.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I want to talk about that coming up in the next segment. Just kind of a comparison between Tom Brady and what he did to the NFL and a couple other teams. But before we do that, the biggest mystery in the NFL has been where J.J. Watt was going to go. See, when he wants out, no problem. Texans, hey, JJ, appreciate your service. You're out. Deshaun Watson, that's just turned into a whole nother mess. But JJ Watt, a lot of people thought Cleveland. A lot of people thought Green Bay, maybe a reunion with his brother playing for the Steelers. But he kind of spurred everybody and decided to go play for the Arizona Cardinals, signs a 2-year deal worth more than $30 million, reunites with someone a lot of people weren't thinking, DeAndre Hopkins, a guy who spent a lot of time with him in Houston. And so now, Cody, you look at that defense for the Arizona Cardinals. I think it could be a pretty good defense, at least give them a chance to make some noise in that division. I mean, you have Chandler Jones on one side, theoretically put J.J. Watt on the other side. Isaiah Simmons will be in year 2. You still have Budda Baker, and you still have Patrick Peterson on that defense with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins on the other side, and Larry Fitzgerald, which, say what you want, as old as he is, he's still a weapon that they found a way to use. I think this could be a fun team to watch, but I think we're of the same mind. Probably not overly threatening right now in the playoff run, and that doesn't really change with the addition of J.J. Watt.
It's going to be a really fun 9-8 team to watch. That's what we were saying before.
Hey, we got to improve that 17-game schedule.
Yeah, and last year, actually their defense wasn't that bad. Top 15, and might go up to like 11th. With I gotta think JJ Watt's aging. We don't know
just
how
a
much
really
we have
hard
left with
division,
them.
right?
Really hard, dude. The Rams,
like the Rams, the Rams got better.
Number 1 defense in the league. The Rams had.
And they had Matt Stafford.
They have had that a few years in the past 5 or 6 years. They've had the number 1 defense.
Oh, you started defense, and you say you have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald on it. Yeah,
yes,
that's a good start.
Exactly. And then their offense is only going to get better. And then you got the Seattle Seahawks out there. Man, come on.
That's a whole drama.
This is the best division in football right now. And then you have the 49ers, one of the best defenses in the league, also another top 5 defense in the league. You have Shanahan out there, dude. This is the best division. I know JJ Watt wants to go out there, stay in the sun and everything, and hang out with D-Hop. But man, you better not be going there thinking that you're going to be winning a bunch of games and going to the playoffs because you have about three teams ahead of you.
No matter where he went, it was going to be a better situation
Oh,
than
yeah,
where
yeah.
he was coming from. But got the best deal, and probably in terms of playing time,
31 million.
yeah, probably got the best deal for him where he's not going to be asked, I think, to be on the field for 3 downs at a time. He can maybe become just kind of a hitman off the outside where you need a pass rusher, where for his entire career, he's been a 3-down defensive lineman. That's where you've just seen his body get broken year after year after year.
Well, they abused him.
Well, I mean, he's moving across every technique across the defensive line. I mean, playing nose guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, stand up and outside linebacker. I mean, during the first few years of his career, he was playing damn tight end and fullback too. So, I mean,
scoring touchdowns, baby.
The Houston Texans got their money's worth out of J.J. Watt, but now good for him. He goes out, I think, $23 million guaranteed for J.J. Watt out there in Arizona. So good for him. Good for the Cardinals. Get a guy that you're going to sell some tickets for people to come see him play opposite of Chandler Jones. It'll be fun, but
over under 8 sacks.
I'll say over.
I'm saying even 8.
That's why you got to put that half on there, you know?
Yeah,
you say 7.5. I'm like,
yeah,
but
yeah.
No, I'd say over 8. I think you're playing on the other side of Chandler Jones. You're playing in a division that you have some quarterbacks that are going to sling it around a little bit. And by the way, Houston has a trip out to Arizona, Cam, coming up this season. So if Deshaun Watson is still the quarterback for the Houston Texans, he's going to have to take that skeleton crew of a team out to Arizona to play against his former wide receiver and former defensive end, a defensive end who apologized to him following the final game of the season, saying, "I'm sorry we're wasting the prime of your career." So, I mean, that should be just a really fun, joyous, good for the soul experience for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I'll pay to watch that. I'm not gonna lie, I would, but Deshaun wouldn't like that. I hope he gets out of Houston. That's all I'm going to say. I hope he does. And I'm excited about J.J. Watt going to Arizona. It's clearly him and D-Hop. They obviously talked about something, so that's
Come
gonna
to
be
the
real cool.
Broncos, Deshaun. Come to the Broncos.
I haven't even heard a whisper of the
about the Broncos.
I'm gonna let him go. He's gonna stay in Houston.
I haven't even heard a whisper. No, if they are gonna let him go, it's gonna be probably the biggest haul we've ever seen in terms of return for
3
a player.
first rounders.
I mean, because you talk about the huge deals before, like Ricky Williams and Herschel Walker in NFL history, but this is literally a top 5 quarterback in the prime of his career on an extension. Like, you have him locked up already. Like, this is something we've never seen before. I mean, I think somebody said, like, in terms of like stats and PFF grades, like the best quarterback we've ever seen moved in a situation like this, like become available, is Jay Cutler when he got moved from the Broncos to the Bears. That's the only time we've ever seen a quarterback even near Deshaun Watson's stature. And Jay Cutler, say what we will about him, love Jay Cutler. He was never Deshaun Watson, right? He had a huge arm, can make some pretty cool throws, but he was never Deshaun Watson.
He's going on a Broncos team that wasn't going to playoffs to a Bears team that also was.
I think it's going to take, like, if it's like the New York Jets, it's going to take the number 2 overall pick, probably the first round pick the year after, maybe a player that they want, and like a second round pick. It's going to be an absurd haul for Deshaun Watson. And it's probably worth it if you're the New York Jets.
Oh, it's worth it if you're the Jets. And if you got to think they have like the most cap space or second most cap space, something like that, try to build the team around him, start getting some free agents. It's a good situation if they do it right, but they are the Jets, so they probably won't do it right.
But again, I did want to talk about something. Cody kind of mentioned it there. Just the amazing career of Tom Brady and some of the other careers that haven't had a chance to shine just because he's throwing up just a huge canopy over the rest of the careers over the last 20-odd years. So I want to dive into that when we come back. And then we got a great line. Charlie Campbell from WalterFootball.com. He has been the most accurate mock drafter over the last few years. He's actually going to come on the show on Wednesday, but he had an interesting line I thought about Zach Wilson, a guy a lot of people think the Jets are going to go after, and if not the Jets, then I think Mel Kiper in his last draft had the Falcons trading up to get Zach Wilson. He had an interesting line in his latest mock draft. I want to dive into that as well. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen and Cam Ursery here on Second Down. If you miss any portion of the show, you can head to Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts. You can listen to all the shows there. Big show coming up on 3 and Out as well today. We'll catch up with Matt Smith and talk some college football with him from SouthernPigskin.com. All that's up next right here on ESPN Radio. Some quick college football news to get here on second down. Cody, it was a short, brief romance between the Florida Gators and former 5-star tight end Eric Gilbert. He is back in the transfer portal just a little over a month after he committed to Florida. Amazing weapon. A lot of people thinking he's going to be the guy who replaces Kyle Pitts. We were talking to David Waters from the Gator Breakdown. He's like, man, if this guy can just get cleared, be a huge part of Florida's offense in 2021. Well, he is back in the transfer portal, man. Are you okay? That's a tough loss.
Long time Gator gone already.
I know, man.
It's just
like him and Jamie Newman, just big pieces of the Georgia.
I was just
Florida
going to bring up
series.
Jamie Newman. These SEC players. Well, Jamie Newman wasn't before, but
Jamie Newman was not an SEC.
It went to SEC. Well, he was for a little bit.
No,
but yes, he was.
Jamie Newman never played.
Long time Georgia Bulldog. Jamie Newman.
Jamie Newman never played an SEC game. At least Eric Gilbert's already played an SEC season.
Yeah, with LSU.
Yeah.
I don't. This is the part where I don't rag on the transfer portal, but when stuff like this happens, I kind of get irritated with it. It's not just because it's the Gators. It's just he went
because it's the Gators,
and then
it's just because it's the Gators.
just left.
If Eric
Away.
Gilbert had committed to Georgia and then
did that, he'd be happy.
Yeah, Cody'd be like, yeah, I respect the kid's decision.
Well, that's different.
In what way?
Because Georgia's the worst school. That's why.
Okay.
Wow.
Cody, just a Florida UCF fan here on the show. But no, a lot of Georgia fans are getting excited, like, oh, come on home, Eric. Come on home. Listen, he went to Marietta High School. He spurred Georgia out of high school, committing to LSU. And then we had an opportunity to enter the transfer portal the first time. He went to Florida. So he went to a school that beat Georgia in Georgia's most recent SEC championship appearance and then to Georgia's biggest rival. I wouldn't hold my breath if I was a Georgia fan to the fact that Eric Gilbert is going to come to the Dogs unless situations change. Maybe he's homesick. Maybe, but I mean, again, if you're homesick, why are you going from LSU to Gainesville? I mean, I guess it's a little bit closer, but still what? Gainesville to Atlanta, Cody, 9-hour, 10-hour drive.
Oh man. It's about 3 hours from here.
5 more hours to Atlanta.
5 more hours to Atlanta. You probably.
I don't know, but you just take
straight
75 straight down. See, we sound like our dads talking right now.
Dude, I feel so old. Thank you for saying it. Straight shot. I'm gonna give it 7 hours.
Cam, will you please look that up? Atlanta. I guess you're there now, so it won't be hard. How long would it take you to get to Gainesville? Just look that up. But I would not hold my breath if I was a Georgia fan. I think a school that might make a lot of sense for him would be Miami.
Atlanta to Gainesville, Florida. Actually, only 4
hours and 43 minutes.
We are dumb.
Yep, 4 hours and 43 minutes.
We should listen to our dads more, Cody.
Oh, I-75.
Yeah,
just
I knew it was
one
75.
straight shot. Dang. Okay.
See, we were doing the old South Georgia to Gainesville, and then adding the math from South Georgia to Atlanta in there.
Dude, it takes 5 hours from like us to Atlanta.
Shot.
What the heck?
Yeah, that 70 miles an hour the entire time makes things easy.
Yeah, the back roads and all that stuff. It's a beautiful drive going through Georgia. You do it all the time though. I don't.
Yeah, not a huge fan of that interstate. Listen, I go to Atlanta a lot, just family, but maybe 25% of the time do I just go 95-16 up into Macon and then up into Atlanta. I like taking my back roads. I like hitting through Jessup, going through Baxley, all the back streets, Lumber City, all of it.
Lumber City, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
Lumber City.
So much more interesting to me than just billboards and trees. That stretch on 16 between Statesboro and Savannah, that's a lonely stretch.
Is there not many like farms and stuff like that out there? I love seeing the crops, stuff like that.
On the interstate? No. Interstate, you get State Patrol.
Yep.
More State Patrol
and billboards.
State Patrol.
State Patrol and billboards. No, you want farms,
Patrol.
get back roads. State 341
Yeah, oh yeah. 341 is beautiful.
for a while.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
Now you're talking about lonely roads.
Going through Apple
And
County.
I know a lot of people listening.
Appling.
Yeah, I know a lot of people listening hit this drive a lot. Going up 16 to Highway 1 to go to Athens to Georgia games. That at night, that's a lonely drive. That's long.
There's like no lights.
2.5 hours of just dark farms. Nah,
You're afraid a deer's going to run out. That's the thing
yeah.
with on those
Yeah.
roads
Oh yeah.
and all that stuff where all those farms and there's no light. Dude, I'm scared to death that I'm going to nail a buck or something like that. Like
Yeah.
a big old 200-something pound freaking deer. Bam! Just
And
obliterate.
if you haven't had that happen to you before, just say goodbye to your car.
Yeah, no,
that's-
it's done, dude. I got 200-some pound freaking
I have driven. Okay,
mini cattle.
yeah, I've lived in South Georgia for a while now. I lived in Atlanta mostly growing up. I lived like in suburban Atlanta up into I don't want to say rural Georgia, but I mean like Cumming and areas like that, and places where there were deer sightings all over the place. Right?
Yeah.
Never hit a deer. Moved to Atlanta to go to school at Georgia State. Hit a deer. Middle of downtown Atlanta. The hell's going on? But let's return from that tangent. Eric Gilbert, I wouldn't hold my breath if I was a Georgia fan, is all I'm saying. Other news, though, and I think this might be interesting to Georgia fans. Darion Kendrick, he was a corner at Clemson, all ACC selection, first-team defense last year, even though he missed 3 games, led the team in pass breakups, former 5-star corner coming out of high school. He's got a year left of eligibility, and he, by all indications, just got kicked off the team. And so he is now in the transfer portal, and there's a team that Clemson's playing to start the year that is in dire need of some depth in the defensive secondary. Have Kirby Smart spoken about it, saying getting through spring, when you start seeing guys hit the transfer portal from other schools, that's when you really got to be active. Well, there's a really good one in there right now. And just talking to a few people, the only hang-up would be the discipline problems. I mean, Dabo Swinney had a quote about him this past year, and someone said, is he in the doghouse? He said, I don't know if he's in the doghouse. He's like, but he's definitely just some discipline is happening with him. So if it's enough to get kicked off the team and you're an all ACC selection, there's some questions that have to be asked there. But if it's something that you feel like maybe it's just a kid butting heads with his head coach one too many times, and maybe now that he just got kicked out of his top 5 program in the country, and you can sit him down and say, hey, you got one more year to improve your draft stock and maybe become a first, second round corner. Why don't you make it this year? Oh, and by the way, Cam, he played corner at Clemson, who you're going to play week 1 in the season. Maybe you can pick his brain a little bit about that Brent Venables defense. I think this is a guy, if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm doing some serious research into.
Yeah, that's a good way to pitch it, though. Just come clean up your act, build your draft stock, and see what you can do. And like you said, you could get revenge on your team right now, right when the season starts, and then maybe again in the college football playoffs if you see him again. So why not? We need corners. Georgia needs corners badly. They do.
Yeah, right now I think Keely Ringo and Nyland Green, from all indications, the guys who are the favorites to start at those quarterback spots, with Brenny playing that star position that he played in the Petefold, which didn't have a great first half, but second half played a lot better. But you have guys, Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell heading to the draft. Tyreek Stevens said heading to Miami. You lose a couple other guys at that star position. So Georgia, desperate need of defensive backs right now. But I did want to dive into this, guys. Georgia is the preseason favorite to win the SEC East. And I think for good reason. You have as much talent coming back on offense as you do, probably the best defensive line in the country. You are going to be the favorite in your division. I don't think there's another division in the country Georgia probably wouldn't be the favorite in, but it just seems year after year after year you get the preseason hype. I know Gators fans love to call Georgia the preseason national champions 10 years running, right? But I do think there is something to this. If you think back pre-Kirby Smart, right? It was the last few years of Mark Richt. Georgia was on a downslide. You had the Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. They were young, but for the most part, you were beating teams you were supposed to beat by a touchdown, maybe less. I mean, I think back to that Georgia Tech game. I think it was 13-7. Mark Richt's last year there in Athens, and Georgia was in a bad spot, and it had really been kind of a rocky road for Georgia. You had the early 2000s with Mark Richt, where winning a lot of games, and then you kind of fell off a little bit until you got Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, you go up, and then after he leaves after his junior year, Noshawn Moreno and them, it kind of goes back down, and then you kick back up with Aaron Murray a few years later, and then it's back down. I think right now, Georgia's in its longest stretch of sustained success that they have been since probably the 1980s. And it's these things are hard to realize when they were right in the middle of them, but there just seems to be a bad taste in Georgia fans' mouths because you don't have the national title to go along with all the success. And what's the biggest reason you don't, Cody? The University of Alabama.
Yep.
Nick Saban and what he's done and the dynasty that he's built. It just so happens that during your longest stretch of sustained success, Nick Saban's built the most successful program in the history of college football and become the greatest coach in the history of college football. And you have to beat him every year if you want to go out there and win a national championship. And Georgia has been able to do that.
The betting lines that we have right now: Alabama 3-1, Clemson 4-1, Ohio State, Oklahoma 15-2, and Georgia 12-1.
And I guarantee you, if Georgia was in another conference, their odds would be higher.
Yes, I agree.
But you have 12-1 because Georgia theoretically is going to have to beat Alabama in the SEC championship to go to the college football semifinals. But the comparison that kept coming to my mind is great NFL quarterbacks over the last 20 years. And what do we always say about them is they only got one, right? You look at Ben Roethlisberger, his Super Bowl. You look at Aaron Rodgers, his Super Bowl. You look at Peyton Manning with the Colts, right? And you were like, he only got one championship in all those years with the Colts. I know he goes with the Broncos and wins another one, but you're just
goes to two, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just you're like, man, it's like it seems like Phillip Rivers never won a Super Bowl. All these great quarterbacks, Drew Brees only won one Super Bowl. Like what was in their way? It's the New England Patriots. I mean, that was the bar that you had to reach. I know they weren't there every year, but I mean, they were either in the AFC Championship or in the Super Bowl pretty much every year. That's what was in your way. And I've said this to you before, Cody. I have a hard time holding it against somebody's legacy, the fact they weren't better than Tom Brady. Right? I mean, Donovan McNabb was a Tom Brady away from winning a Super Bowl, and because he didn't win that Super Bowl with the Eagles, we don't even talk about Donovan McNabb anymore, even though he was an unbelievable quarterback, right? Sean McVay is a wonder kid in terms of the NFL coaching ranks, one of the best offensive minds in the league. He ran into Bill Belichick's defensive mind in the Super Bowl, didn't have a plan B, got shut down, and all of a sudden we've just kind of stopped talking about Sean McVay. That might change this year with Matt Stafford out in LA, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, I look at Georgia's success and some other teams' success too, but mainly Georgia, because you don't have that one championship in there where you can say, okay, we at least got that one. But it's hard for me to hold that against a team or a coach when you're just not better than the greatest to ever do it.
Man, it's just the era of LeBron.
Right.
MJ,
that's a great example.
It's you run into these. We were just talking about this with the Hawks, how they ran into LeBron. You know, you have the Seattle Seahawks, who might have been a dynasty if they wouldn't have lost that second Super Bowl.
Correct.
That just broke down the rest of that team. And Alabama, what they did to Georgia could have won a national championship, but then you have probably the greatest coach who has ever lived for college football.
I think 2 years in a row, Georgia would have been there. You had Alabama with the walk-off in the 2017, but it was, 2017, and then the 2018 SEC championship. 2 years in a row. You just couldn't get past the greatest coach to ever do it and the greatest dynasty ever.
Yep. And if you're a Georgia fan, don't take it so hard because it's happened to so many other teams.
Well, what I want to say is this, I know you want the championship, but you also need to be enjoying this success while it lasts. And I'm not saying Kirby Smart's going anywhere. I'm not saying the recruiting is going anywhere. I mean, Georgia just signed, I think, their fifth straight top 3 class, according to ESPN. So I don't think the recruiting is going anywhere, but I don't think Florida State fans thought it was going anywhere either after the 2013 national championship, right? You think Miami fans thought that they would be bottom of the ACC for a couple years after what they were doing in the 90s and the early 2000s? So I'm just saying. And look at Alabama. Prior to Nick Saban arriving, Alabama wasn't hardly doing anything in the SEC. And then Nick Saban's first year, they lose to Louisiana Monroe. So my concern is Georgia fans are getting sick of having amazing regular seasons and just not winning the one extra game you need to get over the top. I mean, Cam, Jake Fromm was the quarterback at Georgia for 3 years. All he did was go 11-1 every single regular season.
Yeah, that is true. That was the only upsetting thing.
3 years in a row, but he's been gone for about a year now, and we just don't talk about him anymore, right? It's just you don't have that championship. There's nothing to solidify what the legacy is. But I also think at the same time, Georgia fans might not be enjoying what has been an amazing run over these last 5 years.
Yeah, that is true. I think Jake Fromm is right up there as one of the best Georgia quarterbacks ever because
off Rushmore. I think he's Like he's one of the guys standing looking up at Rushmore, but he's just off of the Georgia quarterback Mount Rushmore.
Okay, I give you that. I mean, but 3 straight SEC championship appearances, as bad as people want to call them, that's hard to do in the SEC. And you're right. I mean, that's why I don't really take it for granted. We could have had the national championship 2 years ago, okay, but at least we're not like Vanderbilt or something like that, where it's just every year,
right? Because Vanderbilt kind of knows what the expectations are. But I mean, at least you're not Florida State, a team that was ranked inside the top 4 for 14 years in a row. Like that kind of sustained success, won a national championship, as we said, in the last ever BCS championship, went to the college football semifinals in the first ever college football semifinals, and now they've gone through, 2 coaches since then?
Yep.
I mean,
at least we're not Auburn. Auburn don't know when they want to compete.
Listen,
so.
Auburn's Auburn, man. Auburn's going to be 7-5 one year and playing for a national championship the next year. That Auburn fans are used to that. They kind of know it's like, listen, if we're going to be terrible this year, give it a couple years and we'll go undefeated and get left out of the national championship. I mean, Auburn, they have their ups and downs, but their ups are really high and their downs are really low. But for Georgia, it's just absurd what Kirby Smart's been able to do in his first few years. But because he plays in the same conference and in the same sport as Nick Saban, he just doesn't get the credit he deserves, I think. And again, for Georgia fans, just think back to 2014 to 2016. I mean, do you want to go back to where you're watching a game, the last few games of the regular season, they don't matter, right? I mean, all you're playing for is a better bowl game. Georgia, for the most part, since Kirby Smart's been there, every game's mattered. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Just, I'm not saying you don't want to keep pushing for that national championship. I'm just saying there are probably 115 college football fan bases that, for the most part, every year they know after you lose that first one, it's pretty much over. There's time to enjoy the games because it's college football. Georgia, you've been there. Cole Cubelic thinks you have everything it takes, and no one's really close to you in the SEC East this year. Just make sure you enjoy the games, because you never know when you're going to take a Florida State turn, and it's going to be rough when you're battling and scraping to beat NC State. Cody, you know all about that with the Broncos. You go from championships to
5 years in a row of just doo-doo. Yeah, I know. It doesn't happen often to us.
Can we get that T-shirt?
One of the most winning franchises in
Can we get that
NFL
T-shirt
history?
made?
Just the Broncos.
5 years of doo-doo.
5 years of doo-doo.
I would like that T-shirt made, and I expect you to be wearing it tomorrow. We got more to come here on Second Down. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. So, Cam, really feel like the Los Angeles Lakers kind of an underrated team. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Cody.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
He came back.
Yeah, Cam
Don't
off
say that.
screen on the screen right now.
We're worth the hype. We're worth all the hype.
This is the most excited I've seen Cam. Some Sunbelt news coming out later this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Sunbelt going to release their schedule. So we'll have all the coverage coming up for you on that on 3 and Out. We'll get you updated on what Georgia Southern's schedule looks like coming up in 2021. Reese Davis, Cody, I know you were worried about this. Reese Davis has signed a contract extension with ESPN. He will remain the front man for ESPN's College Game Day. Is that the most iconic singular sports show in like broadcast history? I'm not talking about games themselves like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, but just in terms of a show that is focused on a singular sport. Is there any more iconic show than College Game Day? Because I don't think so. I think it's become as much a part of Saturdays during college football season as the actual games themselves. Like, on your schedule, the thing that's going to start the day off is Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso, College Game Day. I think maybe Cam
NBA on TNT.
I was about to say NBA on TNT. I think it definitely.
Don't beat that.
You don't.
No, I like NBA on TNT.
Okay.
I love it.
Problem.
No, I love it. But I'm saying like College Game Day, it's not even in the same conversation.
You're just talking about second place after that. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just
Since I've gotten into college football, love that.
Well, I'm just trying to think of something that compares whatsoever to that. I don't think any of the NFL shows compare.
No. I'm not gonna lie.
Nothing compares to it.
Of their game is just.
Well, it's not NFL. It would be the actual like Fox and ESPN and CBS. But I mean, the CBS one's just. And listen, I get it. It is who it is. But the CBS was just a bunch of old guys sitting around talking football. Which I mean, if you like it, you like it. If not, NFL is or ESPN's is just a little, to me, just a little too quick and cut. Like, they don't necessarily spend time on certain stuff. It's just a lot of graphics, a lot of hopping back and forth between fantasy and the actual games themselves. Game Day, it's just 3 hours of just getting you ready and storytelling, picks,
history. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess they have a lot bigger base to work with because there are 130 college football teams versus 32 NFL teams. But I mean, just broadcasting from the stadiums, the headgear, you have usually the band and the cheerleaders on one side, you have the fan bases, the Home Depot stuff everywhere, and then they like flip it across and there's like a whole nother set that's like a mini football field with David Pollock. You know what's going to hurt them? I lost Tom Rinaldi, and Tom Rinaldi was the one you could count on every single morning to make you cry. Think about the emotions you went through on College Game Day, or still go through on College Game Day. You come in, you're joyous because it's Saturday morning. You know college football is on the way. You're watching it. You're drinking some coffee, eating breakfast, so you're happy to start it with. And then your team's game comes up, and Kirk Herbstreit says something cross about him, so you get a little frustrated because Kirk Herbstreit said something cross. Tom Rinaldi come on, and he'd make you cry because regardless of what Tom Rinaldi was talking about, with just how well he could write and speak, he was going to make you cry. So you cried, and then you'd come back and they do the picks again. You'd be happy because Lee Corso's there, and he'd forget which teams were playing, get a little quirky with it. He'd put on the headgear, but then
you're about to drag me. I'm not a big Lee Corso fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most ridiculous take.
You gotta have it. That's
the most ridiculous
take
I've
Cam's
ever heard
face.
about.
You're not a Lee Corso fan?
Dude, I can't understand it half the time. Sometimes people just need to retire, man.
Wow. That's like telling Dick Vitale to retire.
He's like the John Madden of like.
That's like telling Dickie V to retire.
John Madden can do that as long as he wants to.
He just need to step away.
No, he doesn't.
That hurts right there. That's like telling Dick Vitale to retire.
Follow me, all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's the Dickie V of college football.
Yeah, he is. That's like telling Dickie V retire.
I feel like he's lost all the time. I used to think he was drunk all the time, but he's not. It's just he's
old.
He's just Lee Corso.
But he's still more entertaining than 99% of the people out there. I mean, his coach. I mean, he has cursed multiple times on that. I mean, he dropped an F-bomb on there one time. He said, bleep it, and put on his headgear. Kirk Herbstreit lost it, and it's one of the most pure funny moments in F-bomb history. It's because it's Lee Corso.
Sure. I wasn't there for all
that. Cody, I think
I'm there on the back end apparently right now.
No, you're on the back end. You are over by yourself on some barren island Well, I guess Mario's there with you too. He said Lee Corso is a big dum dum.
Wow.
I'm
The
not gonna
disrespect.
All that, but you just accuse the man of being drunk on TV.
just being old. He's just old, man. I'm not saying he's
That's
a dumb
ageist.
dumb. He's
That's
just,
ageist.
okay.
Number one.
It's just sometimes.
Wow, now
you
you're
just
just doubling down on it.
sometimes you
The
need to hang up
disrespect to the OG.
Yeah, sometimes you do, and that's why we're going to go to break right here because sometimes you just need to step away, Cody. That's the most disrespectful stuff I've ever heard in my life. Lee Corso, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, and we do not approve of any of the messaging Cody's saying right now. You can stay on College Game Day as long as you want to. I mean, you can just get an explicit warning and put it on game day and say, listen, we know this is broadcast and we're not supposed to be doing this, but it's Lee Corso. And the FCC would be like, all right, that's fine. It's fine. We'll come back. Just like Lee Corso will be back next year
great.
after this. Cam, we had some mayoral disputes going on this weekend. I don't know if you saw this, but Mayor LaToya Cantrell of New Orleans sent out a recruiting pitch to one Russell Wilson after last week. All the Adam Schefter graphics and stuff had Russell Wilson interested in the Bears and New Orleans and all these other teams, right? Well, Mayor Cantrell put out a video trying to woo Sierra and Russell Wilson to New Orleans, saying we welcome you, which is funny, right? Because Drew Brees is out here putting out workout videos out on his Instagram, so we don't even know if Drew Brees is back yet. But she's trying to recruit Russell Wilson away from the Seahawks to New Orleans. Well, Mayor Jenny Durkin of Seattle got a hold of this, and I thought this was one of the best clapbacks I've ever seen. I mean, number one, a mayor v. mayor clapback is just truly astounding, but what she does here, Cam, I think is pretty amazing. She says, quote, "I love you, Mayor, but keep your eyes off of Russell Wilson. His home is Seattle, #Go Hawks. And so you know, Seattle is in the market for an NBA team. Don't make me go there." Basically saying, you want to keep the Pelicans, you better stay away from Russ because we'll come in there and snatch a girl.
That ain't happening, man. They ain't
I mean,
getting the Pelicans, though.
that's some clout right there.
That is though. That sounds like she got some pull in there. I want him. I want him to stay in Seattle. Don't terrorize my life for the next freaking 8 years coming to New Orleans, because I don't know what to do there. I can't catch a break. Brady came, Russ, and then now Carolina wants to get D. Watt. Just please don't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
leave me alone.
Worst nightmare is just waking up in cold sweats, Cody, is the Carolina Panthers trading for Deshaun Watson and the Saints trading for Russell Wilson.
Lord have mercy.
Tom Brady.
Man, that would suck.
And Tom Brady's still in New Orleans. We got more to come. 3 and Outs coming up next right here on ESPN Radio.